Ordinance 2024-10.
Brought the Alpine slide
Oh,
down.
up to be done directly after resolution.
I don't know. I'm gonna get right to it.
Bikes or the scooter or something, something, and you take it up with you.
Yes. Yeah, when we do the approval of the agenda.
A lot of the scariest is that you can bring your bike and get on, ride down to a piece.
I think you do an amendment and then approve it.
It's on our agenda.
Yeah.
When to,
Yeah, you take your bike up
Yeah. That's
on the gondola.
I thought there was some
Yeah, just like tons of runs, like from expert all the way to beginner, all of them. So,
yeah,
yeah, most,
very good. I'm very impressed.
most other than most of the bigger resorts, you can do that at.
When?
On our, since it's
No, really. I think I've said that. No, I've asked if she could get
Glenn.
allow it there, but yeah, most of the bigger resorts.
Hey, Glenn.
I wouldn't get the
For summertime, you
3 times a day.
can. Yeah.
And then when I respond, I can follow.
Can you per my last per my last
This new hotel and restaurant,
Yeah, I just.
Cafe Dawn, are they building a hotel behind?
I can't. I mean, honestly, this is
I didn't really
But
see anything.
this one haven't been in the department for like 4 months. Yeah.
They got that whole back area, all these alleys.
Okay, I have 6 o'clock. If everyone could please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Still trying to.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Christy, could you take roll call, please?
Sure. Davenport? Here. Stevens?
Here.
Fontana?
Here.
Fratelli?
Present.
Martin?
Here.
Nacarado?
Here.
Mayor Shore?
Here.
A quorum is present.
And I will read the civility invocation this evening. We are here working together to create a thriving community. It is the intention of the Salida City Council to promote civil communication by adopting the following guidelines for speaking to the public in the City Council chambers. It is our hope that by acting in this manner, we can help create a safe space for people to share their perspectives and opinions. We honor the opportunity to be engaged in the process of governance for the benefit of our community. We acknowledge that each of us brings a unique perspective to this conversation and that our perspectives may differ. We challenge ourselves to value varying points of view and hold all contributions as equally important. We understand and accept that while we may sometimes disagree, we can always be courteous and kind. We commit to respectful language, avoiding rumor, harsh criticism, or personal accusation, even when feeling emotionally charged. We will, to the best of our ability, speak thoughtfully and listen with attention, respect, and curiosity. We are confident that there may be even better solutions than any of us have thought of, which may be discovered through civil conversations. We affirm our support for women's rights, including equal pay, equal treatment under the law and in the workplace, and the right to determine choices that impact the direction and personal values of one's life, including all individuals' reproductive health choices. We commit to the City of Salida being a hate-free zone and declare and affirm a policy of non-discrimination on the basis of a person's race, color, religion, ancestry, national origin, age, sexual orientation, gender identity, marital status, military or veteran status, socioeconomic class, medical condition, or physical or mental disability. And that will bring us to the consent agenda. And any questions or comments on that this evening?
Mr. Mayor, I want to suggest one change to the agenda.
Sure.
Which is to move ordinance 2024-10, item number 15 on the agenda to follow item number 9, the resolution 2024-41.
Okay, great.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Councilmember Nacarado, seconded by Councilmember Martin, and the motion is to amend the agenda and move ordinance 2024-10 to follow resolution 2024-41, which is number 9 on the agenda. Further discussion?
Stevens?
Yes.
Critelli?
Yes. Nacarado,
Yes.
Fontana,
Yes.
Pappenfort,
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great. And that takes us back to the original. Any other questions on this before we go on and vote on it as amended? Okay.
Did you make another motion, or?
Yeah, can we just motion it as amended?
I move that we adopt the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilmember Pappenfort, seconded by Councilmember Nacarado, and the motion is to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Stevens,
Yes.
Critelli,
Yes.
Nacarado,
Yes.
Fontana,
Yes.
Pappenfort,
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay. And that takes us to citizen comment. And this is an opportunity for the council to hear from our community. And the public will be limited to 3 minutes each during citizen comment, and I am going to hold people strictly to that. If for some reason you don't feel you had enough time, please feel free to reach out to me after the meeting. Council may not respond to your comment this evening. Rather, they may take your comments and suggestions under advisement, and your questions will be directed to the appropriate department for follow-up. If necessary, the city administrator will correct the public record. And with that, I have Kat Bean.
Hello. Hi. So I'm here partially about the parking, partially about public forum. I still feel like the 2-hour parking is hurting our business, but I also am a little bit frustrated that I still haven't gotten connected with the committee, the parking committee. And hopefully we can figure something out. But I think one of the things that could really help the city and citizens is to have some sort of a public forum that's not reliant on social media like Facebook or Twitter or something, because like say you have a discussion going on Facebook, the algorithms are always boosting the comments that are most like reacted to. So it might be something that's inflammatory or otherwise. So if we had like a city-wide forum where people could, it's like you can go, and if you want to talk about parking, there's like a parking discussion going on, or like if it's about housing, there could be a housing discussion going on. And like there's ways to set them up through websites where it's like you can make an account with it, and it's not using something like Facebook that's already existing. So yeah, I just think that could be really helpful. And then it would also help with the issue of like, say when I email a group chat or like a group email, and then because of privacy things, like you're not allowed to CC replies. So you wind up with these emails where it's like it turns into a private conversation, whereas if there was a public forum, then like everyone would be able to read whatever was publicly said, and you would know like if Wales responded or if Justin responded, instead of having to like did somebody respond to Kat or did somebody, it would eliminate that sort of a problem. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to share that as a potential solution to keeping conversations in the public and transparent to everybody, because you wouldn't need an account. You could just log on and view the discussions that might have been going on. So, and I could help with that, getting it set up if I was able to connect with the, like one of the, like email, or not the email, but the whoever hosts the website on the city. So yeah, I know, thanks.
Thank you. Do we have anyone online? Okay. Very good. So that will bring us to, we have a couple of liquor licenses this evening, and the first one is a request for the Victoria Tavern LLC at 143 North F Street, and I'm surprised that the entire room didn't erupt in cheers with the Vic coming back, but that's, I'm digressing, I apologize. This is a public hearing before the Salida City Council, sitting as the Salida Local Liquor Licensing Authority on an application for a new tavern liquor license submitted by Greg Kenny and Kyle Johan on behalf of the Victoria Tavern LLC for the premises with a street address of 143 North F Street within the city of Salida. Before the hearing begins, I will outline the manner in which the hearing will be conducted and the order in which we will receive testimony. Although the authority is acting as a judge of this case, I note for the applicant and members of the public that strict rules of evidence do not apply. Any evidence that is relevant to the matter at hand may be considered by this authority. It is then up to each member of the authority to determine the credibility and weight of all such evidence as it relates to their decision. As chair, I may limit testimony or evidence determined to be irrelevant, repetitive, or cumulative. The order of the hearing will be as follows. The authority will accept the preliminary investigation reports and findings of the city clerk. The applicant may present an opening statement if they choose. The applicant will present its request to the authority. Prior to excusing the applicant's witnesses, cross-examination shall be permitted in the following order. Authority members, and then followed by any party in interest. The city may present evidence and witnesses, if any. Prior to excusing the city's witnesses, cross-examination shall be permitted in the following order. The applicant or its representative, authority members, followed by any other party in interest. Any party in interest may present evidence and testimony. Before excusing witnesses, cross-examination of interested parties and their witnesses shall be permitted in the following order. The applicant or its representative, followed by authority members. The applicant may then present any rebuttal evidence if it wishes to. The city may then also provide rebuttal evidence, if any, and then the applicant is then permitted to give a closing statement if they choose. Throughout this process, the authority may ask questions, and after all evidence and testimonies has been received, I will close the public hearing. The authority will then begin its deliberations on this application. The authority will make a decision by motion and roll call vote. And with all that said, I now open the public hearing on an application for a new tavern license for the Victoria Tavern, LLC, DBA, the Victoria Tavern at 143 North F Street, Salida, Colorado. I invite the city clerk to provide the authority with the city's preliminary investigation reports and findings. Thanks, Christy.
Thank you. So we received a request for a new tavern liquor license from Greg Kenny and Kyle Johan for the Victoria Tavern LLC, doing business as the Victoria Tavern at 143 North F Street. The notice of public hearing was published in the Mountain Mail on May 21st, 2024, and the premises was posted on June 20th, 2024. We ran the individual history records and Colorado Bureau of Investigation background checks and reviewed by staff with no issues. With that, staff is recommending the Liquor Licensing Authority approve the new tavern liquor license request for the Victoria Tavern LLC, and I can answer any questions if you have them.
Questions for Christy? It's pretty straightforward. Okay, given that there are no questions, applicant, I don't know if either Greg or Kyle, if you'd like to come up and make a statement?
Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to review this license request. Kyle and I are very excited and grateful to have the opportunity to reopen this bar. I think it's been long awaited. So we plan to make it the next version of the Vic for the next generation and make it a social house for the community to thrive in. So I don't have anything more to say than we're excited to get this thing reopened for the community.
Great, thanks.
If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, any questions?
Yeah, when would opening day be?
That's a great question. It depends on how this goes.
Not to put pressure on you.
What if it goes swimmingly?
You know, in all reality, we'll probably take some time to dial the team in and open probably early to mid-August, assuming everything goes as planned. We think, you know, this is a pretty important first impression for reopening this bar, and so we're going to take our time to do it right.
Thanks, appreciate it. Does the city have any evidence or witnesses? Okay. Do we have any party in interest that would like to present tonight? Okay, nothing there. I would offer the applicant an opportunity to present any rebuttal evidence, but I don't think there's anything to rebut, so we can probably move on from that. And if you want, you can make a closing statement. Up to you. Okay, awesome. Very good. Okay, so not hearing any more evidence to be brought before the authority on this matter, I now close the public hearing. And Liquor Authority, we're all sitting here as a Liquor Authority. You may begin your deliberations. Who would like to begin?
Let's open her up.
What's that?
Let's be the first one.
Let's open her up. Let's go.
That would require a motion.
Yeah, let's be the first to do it.
Mr. Mayor, I enthusiastically move to approve a new tavern liquor license request for the Victoria Tavern LLC, DBA the Victoria Tavern.
Second.
Okay, that was quick.
All of
So we
everybody
have a
seconded.
motion from Councilmember Nacarado, seconded by Councilmember Curtelli, and the motion is to approve a new tavern liquor license for the Victoria Tavern LLC, DBA, the Victoria Tavern.
Fontana,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Nacarado,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Papenfort,
Yes.
Critelli.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay, thank you. All right, and then next up, we have another one, so I get to read this again. So if you have an opportunity, you might want to duck out at this point unless you were completely captivated by the tone of this. Okay.
From the top.
From the top. This is a public hearing before the Salida City Council, sitting as a Salida Local Liquor Licensing Authority on an application for a new hotel and restaurant liquor license submitted by, is it Leticia? Okay, great. Garcia on behalf of La Terraza Restaurant and Bar for the premises with a street address of 122 East First Street within the city of Salida. Before the hearing begins, I will outline the manner in which the hearing will be conducted and the order in which we will receive testimony. Although the authority is acting as a judge of this case, I note for the applicant and members of the public that strict rules of evidence do not apply. Any evidence that is relevant to the matter at hand may be considered by this authority. It is then up to each member of the authority to determine the credibility and weight of all such evidence as it relates to their decision. As chair, I may limit testimony or evidence determined to be irrelevant, repetitive, or cumulative. The order of the hearing will be as follows. 1, this authority will accept the preliminary investigation reports and findings of the city clerk. 2, the applicant may present an opening statement, if any. 3, the applicant will present its request to the authority. Prior to excusing the applicant's witnesses, cross-examination shall be permitted in the following order. Authority members followed by any other party in interest. The city, for number 4, may present evidence and witnesses, if any. Prior to excusing the city's witnesses, cross-examination shall be permitted in the following order. A, the applicant or its representative. B, authority members. And C, any other party in interest. Any party in interest may present evidence and testimony. Before excusing witnesses, cross-examination of interested parties in their behalf and their witnesses shall be permitted in the following order. The applicant or its representative, followed by authority members. The applicant may then present any rebuttal evidence if it wishes to. The city may then also provide rebuttal evidence, if any. The applicant is then permitted to give a closing statement if he or she chooses. Throughout the process, the authority may ask questions. And after all evidence and testimony has been received, I will close the public hearing. The authority will then begin its deliberations on this application. The authority will make a decision by motion and roll call vote. So I now open the public hearing on an application for a new hotel and restaurant liquor license for La Terraza Restaurant and Bar at 122 East First Street, Salida, Colorado. I invite the city clerk to provide the authority with the city's preliminary investigation reports and findings. Christy, I'm so glad I get to turn it over to you now and I can stop talking for a
For
minute.
just a few minutes.
Yeah.
So a request for a new hotel and restaurant liquor license was submitted by Leticia Garcia for La Terraza Restaurant and Bar LLC, DBA La Terraza Restaurant and Bar at 122 East First Street. The notice of public hearing was published on May 31st, 2024, and the premise was posted on June 20th. Individual history records and Colorado Bureau of Investigation background checks were reviewed by staff with no issues. With that, staff is recommending that the Liquor Licensing Authority approve a new hotel and restaurant liquor license request for La Terraza Restaurant and Bar, and I can answer any questions if you have.
Questions on this for Christy? Looks pretty straightforward. Would you like to come up and make an opening statement? Okay, not a problem. All right, so they waived that. the city may present evidence and witnesses of any? So a double waiver.
Double waiver.
Okay, double waiver, very good. Do we have, any party in interest may present evidence and testimony? Do we have any party in interest?
Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you. I'm Jerry Mallett, 6573 Ridge Road. And I'm here tonight in complete support. I've been a customer down there since they opened, and I've watched the menu grow. I watched the decor expand. I've watched the group come in with a staff of 6, 8 people. They're a small business. We certainly support this, and they have a tremendous work ethic. And I'm in great support. They're good people, and we really need this type of small business in the county. Thank you.
Thanks. I'm just glad you weren't up here to monkey wrench this.
Well, no, I think it's a great idea. Coffee and waffles, I was a little concerned. I love waffles, but that menu's expanded and they're doing a great job.
Okay.
Real asset.
Thanks. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. So no rebuttal evidence, because yes, absolutely. I think she's going to rebut you now, Jerry.
Actually bringing it back to waffles.
No, I just wanted to say that thank you very much for taking us in consideration. And so we're eager to serve waffles or breakfast with mimosas.
Okay, thank you. Good. That's some good marketing there. Okay. Very good. City doesn't need to do any rebuttal evidence. I'm taking that was your closing statement. Are you good with that? Okay, awesome. Very good. Not hearing any more evidence to be brought before the authority on this matter, I now close the public hearing. Liquor Authority, you may begin your deliberations.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve a new hotel and restaurant liquor license request for La Terraza Restaurant and Bar LLC, DBA La Terraza Restaurant and Bar.
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilmember Pappenfort, seconded by Councilmember Critelli, and the motion is to approve a new hotel and restaurant liquor license request for La Terraza Restaurant and Bar LLC, DBA La Terraza Restaurant and Bar. Further discussion? Okay.
Nacarado,
Yes.
Pappenfort,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Fontana,
Yes.
Critelli,
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
The motion passed.
Okay. And moving on to new business, we have Resolution 2024-39, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Salida, Colorado, finding the Salida Quality Farms LLC / Meadowlark Drive annexation petition to be in substantial compliance with state statutes and setting a public hearing on said petition. Thanks.
Good evening, Mayor.
Nice to see you up here.
City Council, thank you. So as you know, the resolution of substantial compliance is the first step in the annexation process and sets the public hearing date for City Council action. James L. Treat, representing Salida Quality Farms LLC, is the property owner and has submitted a petition to annex a 43.02 acre property located on Meadowlark Drive, west of Angelview subdivision. The proposed annexation also includes portions of County Roads 120 and 140 adjacent to and within the immediate vicinity of the property. Staff has found that the proposed annexation is in substantial compliance with city and state statutes and recommends City Council adopt Resolution 2024-39 and set a public hearing date for August 20th of 2024. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
No questions, so I'm going to say welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Really happy to have you.
So I do have one.
Yes.
I was waiting for you to look this way.
Oh, I'll remember that for next
Yeah,
time.
I was like, oh, he's looking over there. So I didn't want to interrupt. So I keep looking over the maps and the stuff that was submitted. So, and I see Angel View is right next door. How is the development connected to the water and the wastewater system, is particularly the wastewater system, and then connect with Angel View?
So there was a very preliminary layout of showing basic connections through the proposed roads, but without a development proposal, the Public Works department has indicated that they really have no comment at this time, and that once developments are proposed, then they get into actual layout and calculations. But, you know, as you know, water systems needs to loop, wastewater has certain requirements, and so those will all be met when development proposals are brought forward.
Okay, yeah, I was just thinking about, you know, the Poncha Boulevard area connection, 120, that whole thing, so.
Yeah,
as soon
it's
as
a big piece of property, so all that will definitely need to be
Runs
looked
down
at.
40,
Oh,
and then they'll probably tap into AW is what I would think. Anyway, but
the same way. Okay,
I know
that was all I
140
had.
is the water supply.
Thanks, appreciate it. Any other questions? Or motions?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve Resolution 2024-39, declaring the Salida Quality Farms LLC Meadowlark Drive annexation is in substantial compliance with city ordinances and state statutes, and setting a public hearing for August 20th, 2024.
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilmember Fontana, seconded by Councilmember Critelli. The motion is to approve Resolution 2024-39, declaring the Salida Quality Farms LLC / Meadowlark Drive annexation is in substantial compliance with city ordinances and state statutes, and setting a public hearing for August 20th, 2024. Further discussion? I did look that way this time. I did look, okay. Thanks.
I might have been blocking her one time.
You were blocking.
Seemed to.
Stevens,
Yes.
Martin? Yes. Critelli,
Yes.
Necrato,
Yes.
Fontana,
Yes.
Davenport.
Yes.
The motion passed.
And next up is Resolution 2024-40, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Salida, Colorado, finding the Suisse annexation petition to be in substantial compliance with state statutes and setting a public hearing on said petition.
Okay, so
They're putting you to work.
this is a bit of a wash, rinse, and repeat, like your liquor licenses. So the resolution of substantial compliance is the first step in the annexation process and sets the public hearing date for city council action. Ned Cease is the property owner and has submitted a petition to annex the 5.71 acre property located at 6953 County Road 105. The proposed annexation also includes a portion of Confluence Road adjacent to the property. Staff has found that the proposed annexation is in substantial compliance with city and state statutes and recommends council adopt Resolution 2024-40 and set a public hearing date for August 20th of 2024. And I'm also happy to answer questions on this one.
Questions?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve Resolution 2024-40, declaring the Salida Quality Farms LLC Meadowlark Drive annexation is in substantial compliance with city ordinances.
Oh, that's a, oops. Did we not move to the, that was the last one.
It's 2024-40.
40? That said 40, no?
It's just typed wrong.
Yeah,
It's Salida Quality Farms.
Yeah, we're,
It's okay, we'll just maybe read it from the,
Is in substantial compliance with city ordinances and state statutes, and setting a public hearing for August 2024.
okay, great.
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilmember Pappenfort, seconded by Councilmember Fontana. The motion is to approve Resolution 2024-40, declaring the cease annexation petition to be, is in substantial compliance. Actually, can you, sorry, with city ordinance and state statutes, and setting a public hearing for August 20th, 2024. Further discussion? Okay.
Oh, let me find, Critelli,
yes.
Fontana,
Yes.
Davenport,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Necrato.
Yes.
The motion passed.
And that brings us to Resolution 2024-41, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Salida expressing the intent of the city to be reimbursed for certain expenses relating to the acquisition of property.
Correct. And for those of you that were here when we were structuring the financing for the fire station, this is a very similar process we have to go through. A municipality has a lot of rules and regulations to follow, especially so in Colorado. So whenever we issue financing, which we're going to do to purchase the building at 325 West Highway 50, we have to follow the rules. But anyhow, one of the rules is you have to have this reimbursement resolution in place so that you can reimburse yourself with the proceeds. It's going to take us longer to get the financing set up that it takes to close on the property. The seller of the property did not want to wait that amount of time to close, which I can understand that because they had other pending offers on the table. And if you have questions for this and a later ordinance, Kim Crawford and Courtney DeGuardi from Butler Snow are on the line, and Melissa Buck, our municipal advisor from UMB, is on the line.
I have to say, I'm a little disappointed our police chief isn't wearing his flag suit tonight.
He's saving it for this weekend. We talked
Okay.
about it already.
I saw him pop in, I couldn't
So you're
resist.
saying he would
We
have?
still haven't promised that it's for him yet. We still have to. He has to do good stuff first.
Fair enough, fair enough.
Amy, I'm clear on the financing, but is this in the city limits or is it in the county?
It is in the city limits.
Thank you.
Other questions? Yes, yes.
So I had a couple constituents come and ask me about the financing, and specifically about why, and I know, I kind of know what I talked about, but I'd like to hear it from you, why the amortization schedule and the loan repayment, or the lease repayment, the principal and interest was not included in the packet with the purchase documents.
We are still structuring that, what the ordinance, and there is going to be an ordinance separate from this resolution later this evening. But what you're doing with that ordinance is giving staff, the mayor, the city administrator, and myself, the authority to negotiate those terms within certain limits that are within the ordinance.
Okay, and
Okay,
that's,
so that will come later.
that's what I
Yeah.
said, so I was hoping I was right.
Okay.
I said some of that is not set. It's not structured to the penny for each repayment. And
Right.
so it will be available later.
Right.
Okay.
And let's talk more about the specifics on that at, when we
next.
pass the ordinance, if
Okay.
that's okay.
Sure,
Yeah, okay,
Yep.
that was it, okay.
yeah.
Anything else?
I kind of have a question about specifics, so I don't know if this is a good time to ask, but I guess, what is like our plan for the building? Like, how much money do we think it's gonna cost to design it and make sure it's like ready for a police station and everything? I don't know if that's a later conversation or not.
It's very early. We know that we are going to incur costs. There does need to be remodeling. There needs to be some, quite a bit of, rework, electrical work, plumbing work, that sort of thing, repairs. The bones are in great shape, but, there's work to be done. And I'm not the best person to answer towards an estimate on that. I know that we've thought a couple million is our hope, but until we really get into it,
It's still going to be way less than building
I
a,
hate to guess too much at this point, but-
Just in preliminary figures, talking to a few architects, we're going to go after a DOLA grant for 1.2 to offset. If we get that, great. If not, then we don't have to rush into this. We can take a slower route. But I'm guessing after that 1.2, if we get that, we're probably going to be out another 300 to 500 at most.
Sounds good.
For a station that you and your successors will be able to utilize for the next 30, 40 years.
Yes, behind the property, we have a 1/4 acre of parking. And then the way the building's structured, we can blow out a wall in 10, 15 years from now if we need to, and take some of that parking away for another 8,000 square feet if we need.
And we've seen criticism from citizens as well, every now and then when you have to kind of adjust to what is presented to you on the table. And this is one of those cases.
Yeah. I think this was a case we saw what happened with fire department situation literally crumbling around our crew. And I thought that this was being able to spot a really good deal and letting us know.
It would be nice for our investigators and other officers to actually have offices rather than closets to work out of.
Especially as our population grows as
Yeah.
fast as it is.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve Resolution 2024-41, expressing the intent of the city to be reimbursed for certain expenses relating to the acquisition of property.
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilmember Pappenfort, seconded by Councilmember Fontana. And can you scroll, sorry? Okay. And then the motion is to approve Resolution 2024-41, expressing the intent of the city to be reimbursed for certain expenses relating to the acquisition of property. Further discussion?
Pappenfort,
Yes.
Critelli,
Yes?
Nacarado,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Fontana. Yes. The motion passed.
And don't even think about sitting back down, because we're moving your next one up.
Not this quick.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, that's quick.
Can you do an ordinance?
Yeah, we can.
Oh.
We heard we could from our esteemed legal
You
counsel.
know, you can't hear the attorneys and the municipal advisor on right now, from their offices, but they're cheering. So if you want to
Okay, so we,
bring them in, Christy?
They're on.
Okay.
But I don't see them. I don't see their faces, but they're on the.
Okay.
well, you're going to, yeah, okay. So we're going to go to ordinance 2024-10, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Salida, Colorado, authorizing the execution and delivery of a site lease, a lease purchase agreement, and related documents in connection with the acquisition of certain property for city purposes, approving the forms of such documents, and providing for other matters related thereto. This is a first reading and setting a second reading and public hearing.
Excellent. And I'm just so proud of myself that I was at least able to write the CAF, but beyond that, I need help. So, Kim or Melissa, would you like to give a summary of what this is all about? If not, I'll try.
She's not muted.
Oh, Kim, we can't hear you.
Just give it a sec.
How come I can't see?
There they are.
They are.
The cavalry has arrived. Oh,
Nope.
See lips moving, no sound.
Okay. All right. Can everybody hear me?
yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so just a brief overview. In talking with Amy and Christy, presented several different options, financing options, where we discussed either doing this in the capital markets, kind of similar to what you guys had done last year with the certificate of participation, that bond transaction, or doing this as a bank loan. Given the loan size amount or the par amount, the purchase price of this property, we decided it was probably in the city's best interest to do this as a private placement. And so this ordinance would be, as Amy mentioned earlier, the first reading. And then there will be a second reading, and then obviously the ordinance, if approved, would then be effective 30 days afterward. So in the interim between this reading and the next reading, we will be working with Collegiate Peaks Bank to negotiate the final terms of this lease purchase agreement. The city did decide to explore a 15-year amortization. And so given that this is subject to annual appropriation, we structured it as a fully amortizing 15-year loan, because you cannot have this economic compulsion to renew. It would trigger a whole bunch of things off of Tabor. So the preliminary rate that Collegiate Peaks Bank, having a little trouble speaking, has given the city is about 4.5%, which in our opinion is pretty reasonable given this current rate environment. And like I said, we will, after this reading, we will work with them to put together that lease purchase agreement and finalize all the terms in accordance with the city's wishes. Kim, any chance that we can hear you, anything that you want, or you can speak, anything you want to add?
I'm going to try again. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, yes, we can hear you.
Yay. Okay, thank you. No, Melissa did a good job, and thank you for having me back. You will recall with the fire station, you did a pretty similar ordinance. This ordinance is called a parameters ordinance, and so section 3 of the ordinance is before you in your packet, sets out the maximum amounts that cannot be exceeded without going back to you for further action. So Amy was speaking about this earlier, but the maximum maturity is 2039 for the lease and 2049 for the site lease, because the site lease always goes out 10 years longer. The maximum amount you can borrow is 1.4 million. The maximum tax exempt rate is 5, and Melissa said they were going to be at 4 or 5, I think you said. The maximum annual repayment cost, or the maximum total repayment cost, is 2.267197. So, so the numbers, if this is approved, the numbers that they provide will have to be within these parameters, or we have to come back to the city for further approval. Also, in doing this, you're giving essentially Amy and Christy and the mayor the ability to accept final pricing determinations. So if the quote that comes back once we get all of the information in from Collegiate Peaks meets those parameters, they can go ahead and accept that bid without going back to the council. But if it doesn't, we do have to come back for more action. And the property that's being leased is actually the property that's being purchased.
Those are all maximum terms. We expect to finance less at a lesser interest rate and a lesser term too. So.
Questions for anything we've heard thus far? No? Okay.
Most of you have been through this before.
Yeah.
I can tell.
Seems
You're
like
experts.
only
in it.
yesterday.
Well, you answered all of my questions from the first one.
Yeah.
Great. Okay.
And then they,
Yeah.
I did.
Yes, well, somebody, all of you. Yeah.
then they sealed the deal. Yeah.
Can we motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve ordinance 2024-10 on first reading and setting second reading and public hearing for July 16th, 2024.
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilmember Nacarado, seconded by Councilmember Fontana. The motion is to approve ordinance 2024-10 on first reading and setting a second reading and public hearing for July 16th, 2024. Further discussion?
Stevens,
Yes.
Fratelli,
Yes.
Nacarado,
Yes.
Fontana,
Yes.
Pappenfort,
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
The motion passed.
Thank you so much for rearranging the agenda.
Of course, thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
We're back to the resolutions.
Thank you.
Next up, Resolution 2024-42, a resolution of the city clerk for the city of Salida, Colorado, adopting and approving the amended fee schedule for the office of the city clerk.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So on June 12th, we received Legislation Council. They published the updated Colorado Open Records Act, the CORA research and retrieval fee maximums effective July 1st. The maximum hourly fee for the research and retrieval in response to the CORA will increase from $33.58 to $41.37, and that's after the first hour. The first hour is free. State law allows governments to charge the fee for the research and retrieval of public documents and shall not exceed that amount. The updated fees will assist in covering the staff and attorney's time for research and retrieval of the public documents for each CORA request. Staff recommends City Council adopt Resolution 2024-42, updating the fee schedule of the city clerk's office. And I can answer any questions.
Questions for Christy?
How many?
This is my understanding that there was an update to state law, but that for us to be able to adopt the new rates, that's why why we're doing this.
We have to use those new rates. Yeah.
And so how many core requests have we had in the since July 1st?
Since July 1st?
Yeah,
None
yesterday.
since July 1st, but several since your last,
I guess
my
it was
last
just like,
update.
yeah, well, yeah, it was since the last update. I guess they're just seeing if we had to retroactively
lot.
apply these to the, you probably lost count on that.
No, Jeff already tried that.
Okay.
Because we do have a huge one that's coming up that's going to take at least 40 hours of staff and attorney's time, so,
These new rates will apply to that.
no,
Or they won't?
no.
It came in after
Oh,
or before.
I see.
Before this was approved.
So you can't retroactively,
No, unfortunately.
okay.
Christie, does that rate, old or new, come anywhere close to covering the time for staff and attorneys?
It is a cost of doing business.
That's what I was gonna ask. So what you just asked is that when there's a Cora request, most of the time the fees don't cover the staff hours.
Correct,
And benefits and.
yeah.
Okay. And so it goes to pay the staff labor and such.
Yeah.
Okay,
And then as taxpayers, we all close the gap.
right.
We all pay for the core request.
Yes.
With that, I would offer a motion.
That would be great.
I move to approve Resolution 2024-42, approving and adopting the updated fee schedule for the Office of the City Clerk.
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilmember Pappenfort, seconded by Councilmember Martin. And the motion is to approve Resolution 2024-42, approving and adopting the updated fee schedule for the Office of the City Clerk. Further discussion? I am looking your way. Okay.
Nothing?
Fontana,
Yes.
Nacarado,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Critelli,
Yes?
Pappenfort,
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
The motion passed.
Okay, and then Resolution 2024-43, a resolution of the City Council for the City of Salida, Colorado, to allow overnight camping and dogs in Marvin Park from July 26th through July 28th for the 2024 Canine Culture LLC Dog Agility Event.
And Diesel's not here, so I'm going to live my best life and present this for him. So you have in front of you this evening a resolution to allow overnight camping and dogs in the park at Marvin for an agility event for said dogs. The code allows for overnight camping and dogs in the park with the approval from City Council. It would allow for the folks who are coming in for this event to stay in Marvin Park and have their dogs with them in opposition to our municipal code. There have been no comments from the neighbors in that area of having any issues with events like this in the past. There's no fiscal impact. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
We've done this for a few years now, have we not?
We have.
Okay, yeah.
It's not-
And so I just wanted to remind people what I like about this is that they do clean up after the dogs, which is what's behind the opposition to dogs being in the parks. And so this event, I don't know how they do it, but they get it cleaned up. And so I'm thrilled about that.
They've got an army of scoopers.
Maybe we can like tap into their secrets and figure out how we can apply it to all
Mind
our
meld.
parks.
Secret
How do you do?
aerosol spray that makes it disappear.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve Resolution 2024-43 to allow overnight camping and dogs in Marvin Park from July 26th through July 28th for the 2024 Gone to the Dogs, Inc. Dog Agility Event.
Second.
So we have motion from Councilmember Critelli, seconded by Councilmember Pappenfort. The motion is to approve Resolution 2024-43 to allow overnight camping and dogs in Marvin Park from July 26th through July 28th for the 2024 Gone to the Dogs, Inc. Dog Agility Event. Further discussion?
Nacarado,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Pappenfort,
Yes.
Fontana,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Critelli,
Yes.
motion passed.
Okay. And next up is ordinance 2024-07, an ordinance of the City Council for the City of Salida, Colorado, amending Chapter 16, Article 13 of the Salida Municipal Code regarding inclusionary housing to further promote and assist the development of workforce housing. This is a first reading and setting a second reading and public hearing.
Thank you. Good evening. So ordinance 2024-07 in front of you is an amendment to Article 13 of Chapter 16 for the inclusionary housing section of the Salida Municipal Code. Many of the items in the ordinance are simply minor clarifications and edits. There are 4 substantive items in this proposal. They are to, 1, increase the allowed income buffer for ownership units. We currently allow incomes to exceed the AMI of the actual unit by 10%, and we're proposing to raise that to 19% to really, due to the higher interest rates right now, really allows most people who can try to qualify, since that is difficult in the current environment. Secondly, to modify the AMI range targeted by ownership units. If you recall, we previously set that AMI range from 120% to 160% on the high end. Given the increase in AMIs that we have seen, which is about 15% over the past 2 years collectively, plus how the market has not risen quite as quickly given the interest rate environment. Our analysis shows that shows us to propose lowering of the target AMI range of ownership units down to 100 to 140% as the high end. There are market rate units out there that the lower end of market rate does reach down into the 160 and slightly below, maybe down to 150% AMI. And we don't want to set people up for failure if we're trying to offer deed restricted units at 160. So that's some of the thinking behind that. And also in conjunction with raising that buffer, as I just mentioned in point number 1, that then allows the 100% AMI units, it gives them a more robust pool of qualified applicants in that lower range where it can be harder for people to qualify to purchase. The third item is the timing of the fee in lieu payment. And it's also differentiating the timing of that payment between projects of 5 or fewer and projects of more than 5. So with projects of 5 or fewer, the proposal here is to require 50% of the payment at building permit and 50% of the payment at CO. And that is the same structure that we utilize with system development fees, which are of a similar amount. And everybody understands it and it works well. And what that does is that establishes what's already in the ordinance, but is not worded the most clearly. So we're cleaning that up. That is that the fee in lieu is assessed at building permit. That's when it's established, the amount that's owed. However, currently, some of that isn't collected until CO, and that can be a year. So by doing the same thing we do with the system development fees, you pay 50% upfront and then 50% at the end. That helps everybody understand this is the amount that's owed, and I've already put a down payment towards it, essentially, and then we're going to finish that payment at CO. Then for projects of 6 or more units, so these are the projects that are required to build a unit. The fee in lieu only comes into play if they have a fraction above that. So in this proposal is that entire fractional fee in lieu would be required to be paid before the first building permit is issued for the subdivision. And so it allows for there to be time for the developer to sell lots, to collect, to recoup some funds in order to pay that. So as opposed to, say, requiring it being paid at the recordation of the plat when they haven't sold any lots yet. So it allows that, but the other thing that it does is we have subdivisions out there, larger subdivisions, they're 20, 30 years in, and there's still 3, 4, 5 plus lots still sitting there. So if we waited until those last, 3 lots, it could be 40 years before we see that fee in lieu payment. So that's the rationale behind splitting those two, the timing of those 2 fee in lieu payments. And then lastly, the other substantive change we're proposing is when an ownership unit, for reasons allowed by code, is being rented by the owner, if their work takes them out of town, or, family reasons, they have to be out of town, for 6 months or a year, they can rent their unit. Currently, the code allows for them to rent that to somebody at 100% AMI income and rent levels, and we are requesting or proposing that be reduced to 80% AMI in rent levels. A little bit more where the need is. There are rentals that can kind of come down close to the 100% AMI range, and just felt like that was the appropriate amount for the rentals. In the code, if somebody were to do one rental in a project, if that was their requirement, that would have to be at 80% AMI, so it comports with that calculation. So that's just a quick summary of the changes we are proposing. And the motion for this is to set the second reading and public hearing for July 16th. So it's up there, but I can also take any questions you have at this time.
Who has questions? Looking both ways. Okay, go ahead.
I am excited to see that we are focusing more on those lower AMI levels. Very excited to see that. I also have a question. Have we ever done a code audit for our inclusionary housing code or anything like that?
I guess
Well, you're doing the land use code rewrite, and hopefully that'll look at it. And I've drafted most of the inclusionary housing ordinance based on best practices and my experience as well, so I could answer any questions. But Clarion is doing the land use code rewrite, so they look at everything that we have in our current code, and they suggest any changes during that process.
Okay. Thank you.
So we'll go with Councilmember Fontana and then Councilmember Davenport.
So, and I know I've asked this before, and obviously I forgot. Where do the fees in lieu go? What are they used for, and are we using them?
So the fees in lieu go to the Affordable Housing Fund, and they, up until very recently, there was not any significant amount of money in that fund to be able to leverage it into anything.
Okay.
The other payments, the short-term rental taxes also go into that fund. So it's very recent that there's been any sort of amount in that fund that allows for something to be done. So there are projects, right now, there are projects being evaluated for how can we use the money? Does it need to go here, there, or to this other one? And some of those projects would be like First and D, a potential senior LIHTC project, and a third. South Arc, that would be the third one that was escaping me. It's only
the biggest.
Spent 10 hours today on that project, so.
I probably want to put it out of my mind too.
If I could just add, this is very specified very clearly, just in case anyone, because it's brought up in the public, in section 4-2-30, special funds, A8 is the Affordable Housing Fund. So it clearly states how it could be, the money needs to be spent.
Thank you, Nita.
Yes, thank you.
And Catherine, I've asked this question before, and I'm still not clear on, and I think I read the answer in the packet, so I'm hoping you remember. You talked about, say I own an affordable unit, and I'm going to be out of town for 6 months. It's okay for me to rent my unit out. But what if I'm living there and I just want to rent out the second bedroom? Aren't there some constraints on who I can rent it to? I can't rent it to a millionaire for $1 million a month, right?
So these same constraints would apply to that as well.
And that's also in our deed restriction, so it's recorded on the property. It's very clear. Anyone occupying or renting needs to be in that AMI and also needs to be approved by the housing authority.
Approved by the housing authority, thank you.
Their process where they look at the income verification, that sort of thing.
Okay.
So that's in
thank
that larger document that's recorded onto the property as well.
you. Yeah, that's how it should be. That makes me feel a lot better.
Any other? Yeah. go ahead.
So to clarify for number 4, so this would be in developments where 6 or more units are built, and so there's a deed restricted unit. Is that the only case that would apply?
And number 4, it would be, yes, for anywhere that builds the ownership unit.
Okay, and then do you know, or can somebody involved with the housing authority know off the top of their head where we're at with 80% AMI? What's the rental range there
I
now?
do have that. So for 2024, 80% AMI, a 1-bedroom, and this includes all utilities, is just over $1,400.
And do you have a 2-bedroom?
2-bedroom is basically $1,700.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any other questions? I had one I just wanted to come back to on the buffer. I'm going to use an analogy because back in the day, the airlines, when prices for fuel spiked, used it as a justification to start charging everybody for their bags. And then fuel prices came down and they stayed on with it regardless of the fact that it wasn't a cost of business doing anymore. So what I'm curious about is we're in an interest rate environment right now where mortgages are, say, 6 or 7. That buffer, let's say we get rates back down in the 3 to 4% range, would they come back down? I mean, that would be my hope, and I just wanted to kind of put that out there.
Yeah, I think that as we move forward with this program and more units come online, that they will evaluate by are we getting a big enough pool of applicants? And are the units selling? So at that point, if there's this, working in conjunction with the housing authority, if we do feel that buffer can come back down, that they'll still have a big enough pool of qualified applicants, then that would be an amendment that we would bring back to you.
Okay.
But.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. Yeah.
So I had one more on number 3B for developments of 6 or more units. So and this was already, it's stated right here, for the 6 or more units, they need to pay the entire fee in lieu no later than the first building permit being issued in the development. So you're requiring for the developers to pay the whole thing on
The fractional fee in lieu. So if it's a 26-unit development, they will have built, I always mess this up.
4.
They will have built 4 units already, and then they would owe a fee in lieu fraction for the 2. And if you recall from a couple months ago, it's a fraction of a fraction. It's, for 2 units, I think it's $8.15 a square foot. But it's somewhere, give or take from that. So that's what they would owe. Because they would be required to pay it before there's an actual building permit, we would not be able to assess that on the actual square footage of those units, but we would use the average square footage in Salida. That's something we kind of track. And right now, that's 1,650 square feet. So if you were to take that times, I believe it's $8.15, but that's just from memory, so I could be a little bit off. That would be what they owe just for those 2 units prior to the first building permit for the whole development. So I don't know what 3,300 times $8.15 is, but
26,000.
okay, so.
Okay, so they would, if we're going with your example, they would pay for the 2 units upfront, the 26, and then when would they pay for the next?
They wouldn't pay for any more because they would be building them
Okay,
as they go. And they're required to build them like 1 out of every 6, right? So they could get 5 COs, and then they would have to CO the deed restricted unit. And then they could get another 5 COs, and then CO the deed restricted
And
unit.
just for some clarification, originally, we had it where it was 1 out of 8, but people had the option for fee in lieu, and that's the only option people were choosing. So we changed the ordinance where we required, and we went to 1 and 6, we upped the AMI levels a little bit, but we required that 1 out of 6 get built, because they weren't getting built otherwise.
instead, we were getting fees.
Yeah.
Were fees, and then it wasn't nearly as impactful as actually getting the unit built.
Impactful for the Affordable Housing Fund.
Correct, well, not for the fund, for the actual building of an affordable unit that would go out to a community member. Because the only money that goes into the fund is from the fee in lieu or from the short-term rental taxes. Because if they're building a unit, they don't pay a fee, they just build a unit.
Right, they build the unit, which is more expensive than
Correct.
paying the fee.
Oh, yeah, yep. Okay.
Yeah. And I think that's part of this story of this inclusionary housing ordinance, is the amount of times we've amended it, because we're very much writing the book on it. Because my fellow council members, we went to CML, they do presentations on inclusionary housing and what other communities are doing on affordable housing, and we're kind of like been there, done that already. So we're ahead, we're very much writing the book on this. That's why there's unintended consequences, which we're gonna be discussing tonight's meeting. There's things that come up that we couldn't have foreseen, and that's why these come up very regularly, actually, as far as amendments that need to be made, considering, just where we are right now. It would actually be nice to see like that all written out, though. It would be cool to see like all of the different edits that this is. Yeah, the actual book itself. It'd be pretty interesting, a good read.
You can go through the packets and pull all that together.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, great.
I'm a total nerd for this, so it'd be really cool to. Yeah. Yeah, I could just have ChatGPT.
Catherine, I'm a bit nervous about item number 4. I know that you wouldn't propose it if it wasn't very needed, because this unit is already deed restricted, meaning that the owner can't sell it for a significant profit because of the deed restriction. I hear you saying that we need more rental units that are in the 80% AMI range, but I don't believe a 6-month rental unit really serves anybody. That was just the scenario. It doesn't serve our working class very well, I should say. It might serve somebody. It doesn't serve the workforce very well. So do you want to say anything more about that?
Well, I would say that it is deed restricted to the workforce, just like the unit that the person owns that, for whatever life circumstances, they have to vacate temporarily. There is, I don't recall if in the deed restriction,
Yeah, I'm looking now.
if there's a maximum time frame. I want to say it's either 1 or 2 years. So I guess the idea is this is for when someone owns the unit and life circumstances take them away from, Salida for a period of time. And so it's a way for them to capture something because they're still paying the mortgage during that time. So beyond that, I hear you about getting this 6 month might not be
I'm not saying that I
the
want them
thing.
to be able to rent it for $1 million a month, but I'm not sure about decreasing it to 80% AMI instead of 100%.
Okay.
But if you all have heard that need, from
It's-
the public or the workforce.
Well, it's what aligns with the rest of the ordinance better, so that would be the reason that we felt that was something that should be aligned with the rest of the ordinance. So if a development so if somebody was building a 6-unit apartment building and that's all they were doing, they would be required for one of those rentals to be 80% AMI. And so that's how we came to the kind of, suggestion to make it 80.
Okay,
And to do it.
that helps, thank you.
That's exactly the point I was
Okay.
just gonna come make, is that that first one is required to be 80%
Okay,
per the calculations, so.
gotcha, thank you.
I'll leave now.
That was enriching.
Got him again.
Any other questions?
I would offer a motion.
I would accept a motion.
Move to approve ordinance 2024-07 on first reading and set the second reading and public hearing for July 16, 2024.
Second.
So motion from Councilmember Pappenfort, seconded by Councilmember Curtelli, and the motion is to approve ordinance 2024-07 on first reading and set the second reading and public hearing for July 16th, 2024. Further discussion?
Pappenfort,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Critelli,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Nacarado,
Yes.
Fontana,
Yes.
motion passed.
Great. And I am going to recuse myself from the next item on the agenda. The applicant helped me on my campaign, donated money to the campaign, is a very good friend. And so I'm going to step out for this, and I'm going to turn it over to Councilmember Curtelli.
Scotty Pippen in the house. All right. Okay, so we are looking at ordinance 2024-08. First reading is setting the public hearing of a substantial amendment to the Green Heart Plan Development and Minor Subdivision located at 535 West 7th Street, and as well as a consideration of request to waive zoning application fees. And I'm handing it over to Glenn Van Nimwegen.
Woohoo!
Wow, long time no see.
Thank you, council. Yes, Glenn Van Imwagen, part-time associate planner.
Wow.
So
This is
I'm
great.
going
It's like
to
a little
be-
reunion.
Yeah, yeah. Bill hasn't trusted me with much, this is my first opportunity to present something to council. I'm a little bit nervous.
Okay.
So this is, as you described, a substantial amendment to the Green Heart Plan Development, which was approved just 2 years ago in May of 2022. It's about 1.25 acres that's located on the west side of 7th Street between Poncha Boulevard and the Monarch Trail. So I'm sure you remember this project. I wasn't here for it, but I've certainly caught up with what was done. So what a plan development is it's an overlay and allows you some flexibility with the underlying zoning requirements and development code requirements. In this case, the applicant took advantage of providing a private drive to get additional units on this site. And then also modified the underlying R1 zoning requirements for the 2 lots that front on 7th Street. So, and they also added in a condition that they'll make good faith effort to get a local Chaffey County workforce member to purchase those lots 3 and 4 and hopefully build an affordable home on that site. The applicant made an application that they would like to look at the fee in lieu option in this case. They felt that back in May, they weren't really up to speed on what could be an ask along this lines as part of the plan development. And then also, they felt that, I think you maybe mentioned it, there's been some changing with the fee in lieu amounts. And in fact, when they made their application, it was 16 per square foot, roughly 16 and a half, and it went up to 20 and a half, I think on the day of their making their application. So they've made a lot of arguments on this. A lot of them are more worldly for the city as a whole, but they feel the fee is excessive. So what they're requesting is that council modify that PD to basically add a new condition that says it can stay the per square foot fee in lieu that it is today, but they want to instill a cap of $15,748, I think it is, which is similar to a subdivision that was approved just before this one came through, which I think was Cherry Hills.
Cherry Grove.
Cherry Grove, they got the same cap. So they're asking for that cap to be in place for 3 years and that it not change for that 3 years unless the fee in lieu goes down. So they're, keeping the options open there. And then finally, the second part of the request is they're asking to waive the application fees for this particular case because they felt they were a little bit behind the 8 ball when they came in and didn't realize the impact this would have on their project. And this was something they could have addressed. So there is 2 parts to it. The Planning Commission reviewed this on May 28th. Basically, staff said, try and focus on this as a plan development, and there's some unique benefits, or they solve some unique problems with this project to justify the change, versus it's wrong for the whole city. That's part of a much bigger discussion that I'm sure the council will continue to have with staff. So, with that, basically some of those aspects might be it was a small site, it's an infill site, didn't have a lot of frontage on 7th Street. The density was kept down, I think, because our comprehensive plan wanted lower density, so they couldn't really take advantage of higher density and the economies of scale that goes with that. And they're also building a private street, basically, which is raising the costs. And they're also have committed to trying to get somebody local. And in fact, they were successful on one of the, I think it's lot 4. We do have a local Chaffey County resident worker that just finished his house, just got a C of O on that. So on May 28th, the Planning Commission did recommend approval of both requests. And our basic motion is that this is first reading. We'll be back before you in 2 weeks on July 16th. A little bit more detailed presentation. And item B is not a part of the ordinance, but we just recommend you push them both off so we can hear them both at the same time. But with that, council member, I'd be happy to answer any questions that council might have.
Thank you, Glenn. Any questions?
Comments, I'm very happy to see these compromises coming forward because when we have private citizens step up and try to solve a community-wide problem, we aren't in the business of punishing them. And so I think we do need to consider it as a PD and come to some kind of compromises because what they're doing here is a beautiful thing and we want to be on their side.
I had just a question about, under the staff evaluation, it was stating that the proposed cap would freeze the fee in lieu for any proposed principal residence above 1,449 square feet. Why is that? Why
why is it that number?
Yeah, so if you work backwards from the 1087 a square foot, and you divide that into 15,000, you come up with a 1,450 square foot home. So basically what the cap is doing is it's benefiting anybody building bigger than 1,450 square feet.
Okay. Interesting. Why is that? What's the strategy there?
It's a trickle-down strategy. I
Right,
think.
right. What's the, why is that? The question still remains.
I think the applicant is here and
Great,
certainly
yeah.
has an opinion on that. I think working back from the history, when we first did inclusionary housing, we put a cap in place because it was a brand-new thing and it helped get it across the finish line. And the idea was, at least in my thinking, people would figure out what that square footage was and they'd build smaller than it because it's less fee, and that means a more efficient home, less resources for the city, basically. And I think she's drawing from that number to put a cap in this case.
If there are no further questions.
I do.
Oh, you got one for Glenn?
I do. Yes, so when you were talking about it, you were talking about the fees in lieu that currently we would change it to unless it went lower and changed in the next few years. Is that the way it's typically done? Or, so if you put in buy your lot and do your stuff, usually it runs at that rate. I know we adjust these fees in lieu, we had talked about possibly, I think with Catherine, twice a year, around there. Isn't it usually locked in? Like when you go to your development, whatever you're doing, you're locked in on that fee at that time.
Yeah.
And so they're asking for it to be low, and lock in now, but if it goes lower, I want to go lower.
Correct. Yeah, so right now, basically, you pay the fee, when you come in with your building plans, you pay the fee that's in place at that moment.
Right.
Basically. And then, as Catherine explained, I think now you're paying half of it, and then when you get C of O, you pay the other half.
Right.
So yes, I think they would like to lock it in, and so they know what's coming up for the next 3 years versus every 6 months. I don't know which is better.
So just to
came
clarify,
from
we
a-
usually only update our fees once a year. Maybe there's been a few times that it's been done it's not done every 6 months.
Okay,
yeah,
I
so-
thought that was,
I mean, it has maybe a few times in the last year and a half, but typically and they could be done every month, I'm just to
It's done
clarify
when
the narrative.
necessary.
Yes, otherwise this fee schedule is done every year.
It is, however, per council's direction, we have been doing the IH fees in lieu twice a year. And that was in response to like a rapidly changing market.
Right.
But that was a council-directed item a few years ago. So we have done it twice a year.
Okay, so my question still is, so if it goes lower, do we make another exception and move it lower for this development?
well, if this is approved, basically the ordinance would say yes. If we drop it below 1087, that's the rate they would pay.
Is that the way we do it with everybody? Or they're
No.
just asking for this?
No one else
This is just the planned development
Negotiation
just very specific to
For
this
this one?
for this
this
one.
case. That's what a planned development is, very specific to each individual case. And it's also like, when it comes to these fees applying to these developments before they're built, right? Once they are built, it's just close the book on it. This is still not a completed project. So it's in limbo, essentially. So that's why we're also in this position.
Right, and if something doesn't get built in 3 years, they pay whatever that fee is at that point.
Okay, so where I'm confused is, and it's not confused, I know we talked last night about other things, but it's similar, and Justin had mentioned it. Where do we decide, I mean, case by case by case. So if we open it up to making changes for this one or locking into this one, are other people going to come back and do something, ask for something similar?
Probably.
They'll use it.
They'll use this. And I know you had said something in different words last night,
Yeah.
but kind of the same, you know, where somebody's asking for us to change something. Are we going to do that again for the next one and the next one? I don't know.
I guess the only thing I can say is like in the perimeters of a PD or a plan development, anybody could ask for that if they choose to go through this really fun and awesome and super efficient and not at all a very long process.
Not tedious at all.
Then they are totally, they're welcome to do so. And it gives us something to do. But I'm like, it's kind of like that's the difference between like setting a precedence and setting that this is just an element, the nature of a plan development is this.
And this one's been going on for
Right.
a while.
Right. And it exposed some unintended consequences with a ordinance that not a lot of communities have and that we're probably pretty much frontiering, so.
And spans this time period of very significant inflation and price changes on that square footage too. I think is unique in that regard. And I don't know if you, Bill or Glenn, have any idea about the number of planned developments that were negotiated during that time that we might be hearing back from.
Very hard to tell. We've done probably, I don't know, half dozen to 10 different PDs, I guess, since this one. So, yeah, very, very difficult to predict who might come back.
Yeah, and I don't know if they all are private citizens who are wanting to build affordable housing. You know, I think it's a case-by-case thing. We don't have to approve all of them moving forward. We approve this one, and we don't ever have to approve another one, but, yeah, it sets a precedent that we can negotiate this, I feel, and I believe that a private citizen doing this should kind of get a break better than, or more so than a developer, a big-time developer.
I like that point, and leveraging these developers' commitment to affordable housing, because while it's not a contract, certainly it's recorded in the CAF, at least for the ordinance.
So do we have any further questions for Glenn?
And then just a reminder, this is first reading,
Yeah,
as you know, yeah.
totally.
I don't want to do a whole public hearing.
Would we like to hear from the applicant?
Yes.
She's got something to say.
So I don't know that you would do that now because it's not a public hearing.
Oh, you gotta
We're
wait till
just
the public
setting,
hearing.
we're setting the second reading
Is
in
the
public
best
hearing.
practice.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, then we wouldn't do that. I just learned something new about the process.
And I'd like to make a final comment before
Yeah.
we go to motion. You know, I see this as incentivizing getting the buildings done, and I really like that. You know, let's get the buildings done so people have homes.
Yeah, incentivizing over requiring, I think, would be really big for our code.
So, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I move to approve ordinance 2024-08 on first reading and set the public hearing for July 16, 2024.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Councilmember Pappenfort, seconded by Councilmember Nacarado, to approve ordinance 2024-08 on first reading and setting the public hearing for July 16th, 2024. Any further discussion? Christie?
Fontana,
Yes.
Nacarado,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Critelli,
Yes.
Pappenfort,
Yes.
Martin.
Yes,
Motion passes.
All right.
there's a second motion there.
I move to approve the applicant's request to waive the Greenheart PD amendment application fees.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Pappenfort, seconded by Councilmember Nacarado, to approve the applicant's request to waive the Greenheart PD amendment application fees. Any further discussion? Christie?
Fontana,
Yes.
Nacarado,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Critelli,
Yes.
Pappenfort,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
motion passed.
All right, next on the agenda is to get the mayor back up onto the dais. Hey, it was very efficiently run.
Go have some more tacos.
I heard a murmur of how efficient it was run.
But let me give you a pat back.
Thank you. That's cool.
All right.
That's,
Welcome back. So next up is ordinance, let's see. Okay, next up is ordinance 2024-09, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Salida, Colorado, amending the city code to add section 10-7-90 entitled knowingly allowing underage persons to possess or consume ethyl, alcohol, and/or marijuana on private property to the municipal code. This is a first reading and setting a second reading in public hearing.
Perfect. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm not going to go terribly long into this. We had a work session about this topic a few weeks ago. Basically, we had a local initiative that was started years ago to address teen drinking and marijuana use in Chaffey County. Data collected from a Healthy Kids survey pointed that we had a higher use rate than the Colorado average. Also had an earlier initiation into drinking and marijuana use than the state average. Over the past few years, FYI, members here in the audience have been working on an initiative to educate students in the classroom, help curb underage drinking in our communities. We've also sat with other departments, Chaffey County Sheriff's Office, other community partners, human services, and came up with this ordinance. This ordinance is more, I guess we have an option on the table today where we can charge somebody with a felony. We're trying to avoid that and go a different route to where it's more educational and not so punitive. In this ordinance, we have a tiered approach where the first time somebody gets contacted, they'll get literature, learn stuff about teen drinking, small fine. The second time the fine goes up, public service is included, and then they will get a class they can take in lieu of that. And then the third time in a 3-year period is an actual max fine for the city of Salida, because obviously the education and stuff didn't work at that point. I will mention at the bottom of my CAF, I did not put the appropriate motion. This will be set for a second reading and public hearing, not a roll call vote. Any questions?
Questions? I mean, we definitely had a good work session on this and got a lot of information. This makes total sense to me.
and thank you for sending the survey results so I can really visualize those numbers, which I'm totally not panicking about at all.
And thanks for bringing this forward.
Right.
You know, this really shows that the police force doesn't want to be punitive. They want to educate people. And this is a topic that people really struggle with. For some people, they think that they're doing a service when clearly they're doing a disservice to our young people. And we need to educate them on that and give our kids a better opportunity for the future.
Definitely.
I move to approve ordinance 2024-09 on first reading and setting second reading and public hearing for July 16, 2024.
Second.
So motion from Councilmember Pappenfort, seconded by Councilmember Critelli, and the motion is to approve ordinance 2024-09 on first reading and setting a second reading and public hearing for July 16th, 2024. Further discussion? No?
Nacarado,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Pappenfort,
Yes.
Fontana,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Critelli,
Yes.
motion passed.
And I must say before I go to the next one that leaving council for one and then having the rearrangement of the agenda, I was in a little bit of a dither there for a second when I came back in, but hopefully I had a good poker face.
You've undithered?
I undithered. I'm undithered. Yes, which is going to be a new word.
It is now.
Have another taco, didn't you?
Yes. I'd like to think so. Okay, next up, we have ordinance 2024-11, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Salida, Colorado, approving a lease of real property located at 348 H Street from the City of Salida to Hilton Lumber. This is a first reading and setting a second reading and public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor. Before you is ordinance 2024-11. The City of Salida has had a very successful and long-term relationship with Hilton Lumber. In 2003, we entered into a 20-year lease with them for them to utilize a portion of city property for storage of various pieces, material, equipment, that kind of thing. The lease expired in July of last year, so we are getting things updated. I've had some great conversations with the new owners of Hilton Lumber, and they have reviewed the terms of this lease and are amenable to those. Quickly, of note, we're increasing. Currently, the lease payment is $200 a month for approximately 1 acre of land. And the property, if you're all familiar where Hilton is, so the property is just to the west of Hilton proper, next to the trail and the ditch. So the rent will stay the same throughout the rest of 2024 and will increase $400 per month over the next 5 years. Ending December 31st, 2029. So we are not going into another 20-year lease for about 5.5 years. That is the most substantial change here, and I can take any questions if you'd like.
I can provide a little bit more background in that. So when they came to us, they obviously had a lease that was well below market rate, and we've had some really good conversations with them. And to bring it up to market rate, right, all in one fell swoop, it just wasn't fair. And so the idea is to ramp it up by $400 per year, on a monthly basis for the next years. And I think it was they were very amenable, and I think it was a productive conversation. I think where both parties walk away feeling pretty good about it. So I just wanted to share that.
Creative problem solving.
Yeah, I did meet with Greg Kenny, one of the owners, and since then it's just, I hope everyone hears and knows that city staff is like more than happy to negotiate and to try and work something out and make it work for everybody. That's all I want to say with that.
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead, Dominique.
Christy, I appreciate having Hilton Lumber in town. They've been here for a very long time. Did we evaluate that site for potential parking at all? Just feel like I have to ask.
Yes, thank you for asking. We discussed the value of that property as a parking lot. It is a little far away from downtown. Through the conversations, and you can talk to the owners in 2 weeks if you'd like to, they did offer to have their property, their parking lot available for public parking on the weekends because they're not open anyway. So we can still have that conversation, but yes.
That's a nice trade-off.
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
great.
And that was unsolicited. They just
It was
came to
was
that.
very nice of them to put that out there. Mhm.
Wow.
And I
Oh,
think.
wait, hold on.
oh,
She's next.
sorry.
I just had a question. So I see the attachment where it structures the rent, but where it says fiscal impact, the wording in there where it says the fiscal impact of this ordinance is a continuation of the $200 per month lease through the end of 2024. So they're going to pay $200 a month for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then an incremental $400 per month lease for the next 5 years. So the wording in there, I understand it because of the attachment, but here it looks like it could be construed as $400 per month.
I
increase.
apologize. I can clarify that. It's what's in the
But that's
contract.
what's in the cover memo, yeah, in the lease
The lease
itself, it's
itself.
very clear on page 202.
Yep,
That's the
I-
agreement that's gonna be signed.
Yep, I saw that. And
Yeah,
if
no, I'm
I,
sure you
if
did.
I hadn't seen that, the page 1 of 15. I mean, as long as they're together on the attachment, otherwise it could look like that's gonna go up $400 per month.
Oh, the memo is not a legally binding document.
Okay, good.
So I can make that correction for the second reading in 2 weeks, but yeah, that memo doesn't.
Hilton would not like that.
And we're not loan sharks.
Right, right. So I
No,
just wanna make
the
sure.
lease is the legal document, and the
Okay.
lease is what the owners of Hilton have reviewed and approved.
Okay. Yep.
And then I just wanted to say, I'm excited about seeing this cash flow come in because our parking expenses are exorbitant. And so I'm glad to see some money coming in.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve ordinance 2024-11, an ordinance of the council of the city of Salida, Colorado, approving a lease of real property located at 348 H Street from the city of Salida to Hilton Lumber LLC on first reading and setting a public hearing for the next meeting, which will be July 16th of 2024.
Second.
Okay, so motion from Councilmember Critelli, seconded by Councilmember Nacarado, and the motion is to approve ordinance 2024-11, an ordinance of the City Council for the City of Salida, Colorado, approving a lease of real property located at 348 H Street from the City of Salida to Hilton Lumber LLC on first reading and setting a public hearing. Okay, further discussion?
Fontana,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Nacarado,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Peppenfort,
Yes.
Critelli,
Yes.
motion passed.
Okay, awesome. Now we are on to reports. Councilmember Critelli.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I was very grateful for all the things I got to learn at this year's CML. It's always an enriching experience, and I always come back a better, more well-informed council member, and also kind of nice to see what other communities, other municipalities in our state are doing to address these similar issues that we have, and it just helps me feel not so isolated or alone in that. Yeah, and also thought it was interesting that there are some Senate bills coming through that will require municipalities to have an affordable housing plan. So that's exciting. And all the things that come with that, like an entity to manage such a thing. So, and collaboration with neighboring municipalities. So just look forward to seeing how that blossoms. And that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Fontana.
A couple things. So I had some people ask me some questions about the lights at Alpine Park, and Christy had answered that, so I figured I'd just put it out there because there were a few more that came since our last meeting. So there's some street lights at Alpine Park where we do the farmer's market that do not work, that are old. Some of the globes are broken and such, and Christy said that she had talked to David Lady?
Our park supervisor.
Okay.
Zach
I
Ryerson.
know it was somebody, and that those lights would be taken down and repaired and either decided to put back or not. So if you're concerned about the park, where the farmer's market is, that's all being taken care of. The next thing I would like to say is thank you to our law enforcement at FIBARC. A lot of people in town, a lot of stuff going on, and I know that all of those guys worked really hard during that time, put in a lot of hours. They don't get to go enjoy FIBARC as we do, so I appreciate them working on that. Let's see, I had two more things. I know Aaron Justin used to be on the airport board. I also had other people coming in to talk to me about the airport and what an important part of our community it is. And they were hoping to get some kind of update. I think the last we heard was quite a while ago. So if there's any airport stuff that could come forward, that would be appreciated.
And we got Airport of the Year this
We
year.
did, so, yes. And I did
That's
put in.
what I was hoping.
I did put an update in the department updates at your last meeting, so their updates from the airport board will be included in council packets in the department update at your second meeting every month. So they can look back at that if they would like to.
Right, and I was hoping they could talk about their new award.
Yes, and that will be on the 9th, so
Oh, good.
it'll be in the next one.
And then the last thing I had was, and maybe this is for Nina or Christy, about the invocation being read at every meeting. Do other cities read that every single time? I support ours, and I think it's great, and I have a bunch of copies because somehow I print it. And I was hoping that we could have some kind of one posted outside. I don't know if anybody's wants to read that every single time as a council, or if we just, the mayor says something like, the invocation is in a nice frame at the door, if you'd like to read it as you come in, or something like that. I just feel like people, I look around at it, at people, why it's being read, and we respect you, but I think people are tuning out.
So why don't we do this? Why don't we schedule it over the next month or so at a work session, just so we can have a fuller conversation? I don't think it'll, so you have my support, we'll talk about it, and we can chart a path forward based on that conversation. Okay?
And then the last thing was, happy 4th, have a safe 4th of July.
Thanks.
Yes.
Councilmember Martin? We're not going to seat you two by each other.
I just want to say I had a great time at the conference 2 weeks ago. I also just got a chance to, just a lot of learning, I feel, for me, taking all of it in as someone who's very new to this role. And my biggest takeaway is probably just working on our unhoused population here and different strategies for that. Hopefully starting with our veteran community. And on that note, also just happy 4th of July. And that's it. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. Councilmember Nacarado?
Yeah, to build on the heels of those comments about the 4th, just want to thank in advance our police department and fire department for the fireworks show, and also keeping us all safe on that tumultuous holiday. And yeah, happy 4th to everybody. On the heels of my comments recently about cheatgrass, we've had some response from the community wanting to know more, wanting to know what to do and how to mitigate. And so I'm working with the county weed department to set up a date for just a cheatgrass educational walk, where we'll also look at some other weeds and native plants and how we can plant native plants to mitigate for cheatgrass in the area. I also enjoyed my time at Colorado Municipal League, and others have already mentioned the sessions on housing. I went to one really enlightening session with Denver Water about how they are sometimes able to use infrastructure to also create open space or river restoration opportunities. And so along those lines, I went to a meeting last week, a coalition of organizations, including the city, that are working together because of a National Park Service grant for rivers, trails, and conservation assistance that was obtained by Collegiate Peaks Trout Unlimited. And so with that grant, we're looking at a public input process for large-scale restoration on the South Arkansas River, and largely in the area that relates to the South Arkansas neighborhood. And through that, it came up that there's actually a more urgent need for restoration along the South Arkansas River, because with runoff this year, high continuous runoff, we are losing massive amounts of the riverbank to the river in one section that's within the South Ark neighborhood area. So it's pretty urgent. I would say anecdotally, upwards of half to almost an acre of land has been lost to the river.
Also trees and
trees, yes. And so
trees have been washed away.
right. And so one thing that's really leading to that riverbank loss is a social trail that has been created right along the riverbank. So I went out there with Diesel, Parks and Recreation staff, and a restoration ecologist the other day, and the trail, the social trail that has now been washed into the river was visibly indented from people walking on it, and that compaction causes the soil to not be able to absorb water. And so it just sloughs off into the river. And so what I am proposing is two things tonight. One, that we signify that that area is closed for walking for now because it needs to be restored so that we don't continue to lose landmass to the river. And so that could be signed, and then people could be asked to walk elsewhere further from the riverbank. And then that section of the river may need machine treatment later this year in order to make a bank that's not going to wash away. However, downstream, there's another section that's less, that has less severe erosion, but it does have active erosion. And that area, I would propose that we do a volunteer work day. I'd like to partner with Central Colorado Conservancy and their Hands for Lands project and do a volunteer work day with live willow planting in that area. And it would have to happen in July in order for those willows to be viable through the winter, but the willow roots will then grow into the riverbank and hold it in place to prevent further erosion there. I think we'd like to use willow treatment up above in the severely eroded area too, but adjusting the grade on the bank would help that be successful. So I guess I'm just hoping that we can get some council direction to say yes, that can happen. Great. Thank you.
We're just so agreeable.
Sorry for the long explanation, that one. There was no way to shorten it.
You had me at massive amounts of land dropping into the river.
Yeah, I'll share pictures.
Oh, God.
Anything else, or?
That's it.
Okay, Councilmember Pattenford.
On the vet housing note, I have a resource at my other job, Area Agency on Aging, that I'm happy to share with people. It's an entity, the name escapes me right now, out of Denver, and they will come and meet the vets. It's a housing first program. The only qualification is that you are at or below 50% area median income. And then if other services are needed, once the housing is in place, then those are addressed as well, but they are a housing first group. I will add to the thanks on the July 4th. I know we're all excited about having fireworks. This rain has made it possible to have fireworks without having fire. And so I know that people are going to enjoy that. I would like to request that Diesel work on some signs for Alpine Park that say no dogs, and that they are placed at the four corners of the park. There are lovely little, very polite signs in the park, and they are not working. And what I read somewhere in the code was that they need to be very simple, and so the no dogs, you could add in the park if you really want some extra words, but otherwise, it just needs to be big and hit you in the face, because everybody acts like it is a dog show. Except for the part about cleaning up after the dogs. And then, love all of Dominique's ideas on how to protect the river. It is a huge economic driver in our community, and we don't want it all falling into the river. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Stevens.
I just want to remind everybody about the street closures that are going to start happening or are already happening on Oak Street. In my line of business, I've had to, drive through those areas quite often, quite a bit the last few weeks. And now starting, I think, July 8th, there's going to be some more construction starting up for the restoration project on Oak Street. A lot of different signs up, detours, going to be changing all the time. And just driving through there, the streets that the detours are detouring off to are very, residential and skinny, and signs are taking up a lot of the space that people are also driving on. So just remind everybody, just be careful as those construction zones pop up here and there. And other than that, just yeah, happy 4th of July, and everybody be safe. And is that it?
Thank you. I just had a few things tonight. First off, I went to CML as well, and I just want to make sure that the public understands why at the last council meeting there were only a few of us here, and that is because the rest of us were at the CML meeting. As you heard tonight, it's a great way to talk to other mayors, council members, staff members from other communities for best practices. And the conference was almost 4 hours away from here, and it starts early on a Wednesday morning, so we opted to go the night before. It's definitely an out of the ordinary thing, but that's the reason why it happened. So I just wanted people to be aware of that. Secondly, regarding the 4th of July, there have been some press releases that have gone out regarding fireworks. We're going to have a great show, but I would just really encourage people that in our statutes, there are prohibitions around, and just remember, we're a dog-loving community. We have a lot of people here with animals. This can be really, really stressful. So I'm just asking everyone just to be respectful of others, and that it does have an impact, and we are going to have a great show. The final thing I want to mention is there's been some talk and some members of the community who have been unhappy about the fact that we've gone to a 4-day week at City Hall. And I get that. I understand anytime we make a decision, not everyone is going to agree with that. And that is perfectly okay. But we put a lot of thought into this, and I want people to rest assured that staff is going to continue to work the same hours they were working previously. They're going from working a 5-day week at 8 hours to a 4-day week where they're working 10 hours. I've had some people say, yeah, but a lot of times Mondays are holidays, and there's a concern there. And I want to assure everybody that on weeks where there's a holiday on Monday, people will still work their 32 hours. Because if it was a 4-day week, under the old schedule, they would work 4 8s. So people will work, and we have systems in place with the department heads, with the supervisors, there are timesheets. So we feel really confident that this is going to be fine. And it's important for people to understand that this only impacts a very small percentage of our workforce. It applies to our finance department, administration, and community development, but it doesn't have any effect on fire, on police, on public works, parks and rec, or arts and culture. And we will monitor this and evaluate how it's working out for people. 2 last points that I want to make on this. We're pretty late to the party in doing this. I mean, the school did this over a decade ago. The county did it a couple of years ago. And we have a lot of people that work in this organization that are working parents. And when the school went to that 4-day week, it creates a lot of challenges around finding childcare on those days. And being able to provide this additional flexibility will help us with recruitment and retention of people. So I think that's really important. And the last point I want to make on this is that I've had the privilege of sitting up here on this dais for the last 6.5 years, and I've really gotten to know staff. And I have been really struck by the professionalism, the dedication to this community, and the experience and expertise that they bring. These are really good people that have hard jobs and do these jobs really, really well. And anything we can do to support them in that work-life balance and the work still getting done, and all you have to do is look around the city. You see the work getting done. We were at that CML conference last week, and there was a federal holiday on Wednesday, and there was a buzz of activity at the city level. Even though it was a federal holiday, they were still out there working. So I just wanted to put that out there. I know not everyone's going to agree with it, and if you have problems, please bring them to me. But we are moving forward with this, and as I mentioned, we will evaluate. Thank you.
Some of them have a big drive too.
Yeah, thank you.
Remember that.
Yeah, that's another point. Thank you. Treasurer report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to give a big thanks to finance staff and our partners for putting together the financing for the new police station. So, and that's the end of my comments.
Thank you. Attorney?
None for tonight.
Okay, anything from the departments?
No, thank you very much.
Okay, all right, so we are going to be going into executive session. I believe we're going to go back into the other room to do that. Quick procedural question, because we're going in for two. When we do that, do we read both the scripts now, or how does that work?
You can make one motion for both executive sessions.
Okay.
If there's a dispute, obviously we could split them up, but if you all vote, if we have the required 2/3, that's fine, as long as you include the statutory bases.
Great, I'm gonna.
Mr. Mayor, I move we go into executive session for the purpose of conferencing with the city attorney for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions under CRS Section 246402 4B, and for the purpose of determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiation, developing strategy for negotiations, and/or instructing negotiators under CRS Section 246402 4E. And the following additional details are provided for identification purposes. Legal advice regarding lawsuit brought by the town of Poncha Springs, Tailwind Group LLC, and Full Views Matter LLC against the city of Salida and related negotiations, discussions, and next steps after and in response to recent court-ordered mediation. Swimming. Mr. Mayor, I move to go into executive session to discuss the purchase, acquisition, lease, transfer, or sale of real, personal, or other property interests under CRS Section 246402-4A for the purpose of conferencing with the city attorney for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions under CRS Section 246402-4B, and for the purpose of determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiation, developing strategies for negotiations, and/or instructing negotiators under CRS Section 246402-4E. And the following additional details are provided for identification purposes, negotiations with Visionary Communications LLC.
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilmember Nacarado, seconded by Councilmember Pappenfort. And the motion is to go into executive session for the purpose of conferencing with the city attorney and for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions under CRS Section 24-6402-4B, and for the purpose of determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiation, developing strategy for negotiations, and/or instructing negotiators under CRS Section 24-6402-4E, and the following additional details are provided for identification purposes. Legal advice regarding lawsuit brought by the Town of Poncha Springs, Tailwind Group LLC, and Full Views Matter LLC against the city of Salida and related negotiations, discussions, and next steps after and in response to recent court-ordered mediation. And then also to move to go into executive session to discuss the purchase, acquisition, lease, transfer, or sale of real, personal, or other property interest under CRS Section 24-6402-4A for the purpose of conferencing with the city attorney for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions under CRS Section 24-6402-4B, and for the purpose of determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiation, developing strategy for negotiations, and/or instructing negotiators under CRS Section 24-6402-4E, and the following additional details are provided for identification purposes. Negotiations with Visionary Communications, LLC. Further discussion?
Nacarado,
Yes.
Pappenfort,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Fontana,
Yes.
Critelli,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
motion passed.
And if I could just state for the any public listening and also for our AV crew that after our executive session, we'll be coming back to give a brief report and to adjourn.
Thank you.
Just gotta use up the last of the business cards, I guess.
Thank you. I just ran. Did you see how fast I was walking?
You were doing good.
So, you already have it. Yeah, because I'll use it tonight.
Thanks for running to save me.
The floor is yours.
Oh, yes, so thank you, Mayor. The mayor has asked me to summarize both executive sessions. Obviously, council speak up if it does not reflect what happened or if any discussions happened outside. But also, I'll let the mayor read his last script after I do this. So our first executive session, we were given further negotiating parameters, discussions, so that we can continue mediation with the town of Poncha Springs and the two developers who sued the city of Salida, and we will have a subsequent mediation at the end of August. So we were given terms to go back and forth and to continue the discussion during the interim by which the court case will be stayed. The second executive session, staff was given parameters to continue negotiations with Visionary Communications. If anything comes from that, that'll come up on a public meeting for you to vote in full transparency in front of the public.
Thank you. The time is now 8:56 p.m. and the executive session has been concluded. The participants in the executive session were Councilmember Critelli, Councilmember Fontana, Councilmember Stevens, Mayor Shore, Councilmember Martin, Councilmember Nacarado, Councilmember Pappenfort, Administrator Dune, City Attorney Williams, Public Works Director Lady, Finance Director Tahanovich, and City Clerk Jefferson. For the record, if any person who participated in the executive session believes that any substantial discussion of any matters not included in the motion to go into the executive session occurred during the executive session, or that any improper action occurred during the executive session in violation of the open meetings law, I would ask that you state your concerns for the record. Seeing none, the next agenda item is a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.